always lots of topics going on in Washington, D.C. that is of interest to those in the cattle industry. And to talk about some of those, we're joined now by Kristin Butts, who's Executive Director of Legislative Affairs for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Well, Kristina, I mean, waters of the U.S. and some other things that have been on the mind of a lot of producers and been involved, but we do have a new Congress. And so does this help? Does this change the agenda? Does the agenda get reshaped to maybe more favorable to members of NCBA?
Well, absolutely. So I've been in D.C. a long time, and there's a lot of excitement around a new Congress because there's new members of Congress who really have a blank slate. They have no perceived connotations of what the industry has done in the past. There's no previous votes to have them on record on any of our issues. So it's really a great opportunity for us to make sure that we're going in there talking to them about the beef industry, our producers, our NCBA members coming to Washington, visiting with them as well, meeting with them when they're back home. So it is really kind of shaping up to be a very favorable Congress with the House and the Senate, both obviously being controlled by the Republicans, but we've got a lot of Democrats too that continue to work together with Republicans on a lot of our issues, a lot of EPA issues, a lot of marketing and trade issues. So we're excited about maybe a bipartisan effort on a lot of the issues that will benefit cattle producers.
One of the things as we talk about, as you said, the Republicans now are in control of both chambers, but we have new committee chairman. Now the Senate, of course, is somebody that comes over as a former House Ag Committee chairman, but still new ideas, a new year. So talk about maybe that process of reaching out and even new committee members.
So for the first few months, as our jobs as lobbyists and really advocates for the industry in Washington, that's all we're doing. Because not only do we have new members that are chairs of these committees, but we also have new members on the committee itself. And then a lot of these members have new staff. And obviously staff play a very critical role in a lot of the conversations that we have in Washington. So really, we've already had several of our producers make a trip to D.C. To welcome in the new committee chairman or to actually meet with their congressional delegation, because we have a lot of new Senate faces too. And so that was really important just to make sure that they're hearing from folks back home that come to Washington.
And let's also mention you spend time not only just with the Ag Committee folks, but there are a lot of issues really in almost every committee that has an impact on cattle producers.
Absolutely. A lot of our producers are really surprised when I say that I spend most of my time off of the Ag Committee. I work a lot with the Energy and Commerce Committee because they oversee a lot of the air issues as well as a lot of the animal health issues. The Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, obviously transportation, but they have jurisdiction over water issues. Working with the Ways and Means Committee, that's the Tax Committee as well as the Trade Committee, the Judiciary Committee on immigration issues, Homeland Security Committee on border security. So really there's a whole lot of committees, and recently we've been working with the Science Committee on some of the animal health issues from a scientific perspective to ask those questions of USDA. So really, you're right. It's a lot of committees that we're working with. The Ag Committee is always kind of the core committee, and a lot of those other committees look to members on the Ag Committee. And some Ag Committee members are on other committees too, like the Science Committee and Judiciary Committee. So that really helps us kind of bring that momentum and bring that relationship forward on a lot of our cattle issues.
Another big push that agriculture is becoming in the forefront is the trade issue, specifically that push again for Trade Promotion Authority for the President, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but in some ag circles that's not necessarily a solidly done deal.
You're right. So we obviously are working with the administration, trying to do all we can to get Trade Promotion Authority through the House and the Senate. Seems like all conversations in those congressional bodies are going very, very well. There's actually bipartisan support on that front, so that is a really great first step. And then obviously the negotiations over the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and for this last year, our negotiators have been negotiating these trade deals and trying to figure out what works well for all commodities involved. But one area where we've been really kind of pushing back is on Japan, and just making sure that when we have Japan at the table that we want to talk about tariff elimination. That 38.5% tariff that's on our beef products right now, we want that eliminated down to zero. Congress was able to achieve that on the South Korea Free Trade Agreement, so the precedent is there, and we just need to make sure that Congress continues to have oversight over the U.S. Trade Representative's office, and obviously the Department of Agriculture plays a role in that too. They understand how important trade is, and making sure we get a great deal for agriculture and specifically the beef industry.
Well, lastly, as we talk about trade, but let's also talk about food safety. Recently, in the president's proposed budget, there was some rearranging, kind of putting trade all under one cap, moving a lot of things around, putting food safety and maybe taking some out of USDA's jurisdiction into others. Now, at first glance, that would be a concern if I'm involved in production agriculture.
Absolutely. So NCBA's membership, we've had policy on our books since 2009 to oppose a single food safety agency or something of that nature. And that's exactly right. The president is trying to remove the Food Safety Inspection Service from USDA and put it over at the Health and Human Services Agency with the Food and Drug Administration and their food safety efforts on fruits and vegetables and other non-meat entities. So obviously NCBA, we adamantly oppose this. There's been efforts in the past in Congress to actually introduce legislation. Thankfully, those were defeated. They never went anywhere. And this will be something that NCBA will fight the president on and just make sure that he knows that the Food Safety Inspection Service needs to remain at USDA. And that agency has all jurisdiction and regulation over all the federally inspected packing and processing facilities for all meat, including beef.
That's Kristina Butts, who is the Executive Director for Legislative Affairs for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. That's the AgView from San Antonio. I'm Ken Rogers.